Welcome to Michael Potts F1, everything Formula One, but from a photographer's point of view. Round 19, the USA Grand Prix from Austin, Texas. This race was all about that overtake. Sorry, Charles, but that's what everyone's talking about. Lando was catching Max with just a few laps to go, and he made an attempt to overtake the Red Bull around the outside. Both cars left the track, but Lando went ahead and took the place. The FIA decided that he left the track to gain an advantage and gave him a 5-second penalty, placing him behind Max in the race classification. Lando was in the wrong according to the letter of the law. He was behind Max at the apex and should have either pulled out of the move or given the place back. However, it's not as simple as that. When you look at the two drivers' telemetry, you can see that Max had no intention of making that corner. He couldn't. He was going too fast into it. And that's what pushed Lando wide. And that's what McLaren thought that stewards would conclude, and they advised him not to give the place back. Max drove brilliantly this weekend, and he drove brilliantly within the laws, even if it is extremely aggressive. He knows that if both cars crash, it's a good result for him because he's defending points in the Drivers' Championship. It's similar to how Senna or Schumacher drove, forcing the other driver to back down or to crash. He did a similar thing at the start of the race, and this has happened in several other Grand Prix, such as Austria this year. The USA Grand Prix was a great weekend for the Dutch driver. He pulled the championship back in his favour, increasing the gap to 57 points, on a weekend where Lando really needed to reduce the deficit. Norris now needs to outscore Verstappen by roughly 12 points per race. That's a very big ask. There are only 146 points still available for the remaining races. And that now means that both Mercedes drivers are out of contention for the championship. That was after the Silver Arrows had a woeful weekend. P6 for Russell in the race was actually a relatively good result in the circumstances, but not the result they were looking for at the start of the weekend. Russell had a huge crash in qualifying and he needed to start from the pit lane, so it was a good drive to get back into the points, but they would be disappointed not to be targeting more. Lewis crashed at the same corner at the start of the race, so a weekend that promised a lot with new upgrades is going to leave the team scratching their heads a bit. Future Mercedes driver Kimi Antonelli will be taking Lewis's car in free practice 1 in Mexico. His other practice session only lasted 10 minutes in Monza before he crashed. With both drivers out of contention and 4th place in the championship probably the best they can manage, being over 150 points behind Ferrari and comfortably ahead of Aston Martin in 5th, we might see Kimi featuring in a few more practice sessions before the end of the year. During the course of this weekend, I spent a little bit of time listening to Williams boss James Vowles. He's a very impressive, visionary individual. The team are currently building what will be the most advanced driver simulator in the paddock, and they just received a massive financial boost, raising $100 million from share sales. They've picked up a new sponsor in coffee brand Reviver. One thing that he said that I found very interesting was he sees the value in adding young, diverse talent to the team, investing in young people, in young drivers such as Franco Colapinto, who has taken Formula One by storm, scoring points in 2 of his first 4 races. It does leave the team in a tricky situation, because his form warrants a drive next year, but Williams have just signed Carlos Sainz to their 2nd seat, so there's no place for Franco in the team. And while they are getting a very talented driver in Sainz, you do feel that the moment he gets a chance to move away from Williams, he'll jump at it. So in hindsight, would Carlo Pinto have been a better option? There is still 1 seat available at Sauber, and this could go to the young Argentinian, but I think we'll only find that out towards the end of the year. There were also a few other drivers who got notable results. Nico Hülkenberg scored 5 points and Kevin Magnussen 2 points for Haas. That brought the local team up to 6th place in the Constructors, a remarkable result for the smallest outfit in the paddock. They had a brilliant new livery for the race, and they're celebrating a new partnership deal with Toyota. This could really benefit Haas as Toyota have state-of-the-art facilities, skilled engineers, and they could really help out the American team on the chassis side of development. Haas overtook Racing Bulls, who axed Daniel Ricciardo at the last race, and have now welcomed back Kiwi Liam Lawson. He set the 3rd fastest time in Q1, but because his car had exceeded its new parts quota for the year, he had to take a massive grid place penalty, which meant starting from the back of the grid. Despite being last, he drove the socks off that V-carb and finished 9th. It's a remarkable result, and the first shot fired in his battle with Yuki Tsunoda. Austin is one of the biggest races of the year. The paddock is full of celebrities, including Sting, who's looking great at 73. He performed at the track on Friday night, Rapper Quavo, who's released a single called Tough with Lana Del Rey. Shabuzi, whose bar song has been #1 on the music charts for 13 weeks in a row. Controversial former pro cyclist Lance Armstrong, seen here talking to Gordon Ramsay. Mondo Duplantis, the Olympic pole vault champion, attended, and he even presented the fastest lap trophy to Lando Norris. He was joined by fellow Olympic heroes, 200-meter gold medal winner Gabby Thompson, and the fastest British woman Diana Asher-Smith. Podcaster Joe Rogan and his partner were here. Among the drivers, Lewis Hamilton arrived in an all-denim suit from fashion house Bailey, designed by Simon Bellotti. He also was wearing gold-tooth jewellery. George was dressed a little bit more casually. Ollie Behrman had a fake moustache, and Carlos Sainz had a brilliant chili cowboy hat. I caught a bit of a photo shoot with the 2 McLaren drivers on the pit wall. Thursday, which is our media day, is always a good chance to capture drivers doing interesting things. Several of the cars had makeovers. Alpine were promoting the new Indiana Jones movie, The Great Circle, and despite making their car look like a McLaren, it didn't score as many points as McLaren. Speaking of McLaren, they had a beautiful new chrome look. This is a fabulous design, and it's the one they should consider running as their primary design next year. Many of the teams brought upgrades this race, and personally, I didn't think that was going to be a good idea. You have such limited time to test the cars fully on a sprint weekend. These current F1 cars are so sensitive, and they really need to be set up perfectly in the sweet spot to perform. Ferrari was the only front-running team not to bring upgrades, and they went on to win the race. It was a brilliant drive from both Charles and Carlos, and brilliant strategy from the team. When you look back over the past few years, strategy has been Ferrari's weak spot. It's now one of their strengths. From Charles knowing that there was a good chance Max would go hard at Lando at the start, adjusting his line to get the best exit of the corner to take the lead, to Carlos undercutting Max to take second, and both cars executing their strategy perfectly. This result has brought the Scuderia within 8 points of Red Bull in the Constructors, and not too far off McLaren, who are leading. Ferrari did an incredible job. They got a 1-2 at a track that really shouldn't have suited them. They're going to be real contenders going into the final few races of the year. The Constructors' battle has been joined. Thank you so much for joining me for this video of the USA Grand Prix. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. Please let me know what you thought of the race in the comments below, and if you'd like to see some more photographs from the Grand Prix, there's a link in the description. And if you haven't yet, please do like and subscribe. There's a lot more Formula 1 action coming your way. I'm about to jump on a plane and head off to Mexico City for the Mexican Grand Prix, so until then, goodbye.